How's it going, everyone? UAA here, bringing you another playthrough. This time, it's Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, the final game in the NES trilogy. Now, this game is a perfect example on how to do a sequel right. While Castlevania 2 was horrible and just a terrible way to do a sequel, Castlevania 3 is an excellent game. It takes everything that was good about Castlevania 1, adds new stuff, and just makes it overall better. This game is amazing. One of my personal favorite NES games. Now, the intro has a nice little story, but it's written so poorly. I could have written this intro in 2nd grade. I mean, it just talks about, oh, Dracula turned the good people to bad, and they just use good and bad over and over again. It's terrible. Who wrote this? Is this a mistranslation or something? And it's terrible. I mean, but it's not like anybody ever sees this. Most people will just press start to skip to the game because, really, who cares about the story in a Castlevania game? Pretty much, the whole story is Dracula is doing bad things again, go kill him. And that's really all Castlevania should be. In a lot of the later games, they start adding a lot of story elements, especially the 3D ones, and I'm just like, I don't care about this. I just want to whip bad guys and collect hearts from candles. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have all this complex story in a Castlevania game. If I wanted that, I'd go play Final Fantasy or something like that. Nevertheless, the story in this game is very... who cares? There's no point to it. Dracula's doing bad things, we need to go kill him, and that's all there is to it. Now this game... but before we start, at this name selection screen, if you enter your name as Help Me, I think you get 10 lives, so if you need that, which you probably will your first time playing this, if you need that, then put your name as Help Me. Now this game is known for being very, very difficult. Pretty much everyone says it, and to those people, I have to say, you're right, this game is really hard. This game is, it's definitely the hardest of the 3 Castlevania games on the NES. No, in fact, this is probably the hardest Castlevania game ever. I mean, a lot of people say that Castlevania Dracula X is just as hard, but I certainly do not agree. This game is brutally difficult, especially in some of the later levels, and you're going to be having a lot of issues with this game the first time you play it. I know I did. The first time I played this game, oh my, did I die a lot. Oh, a whole lot. Pretty much every stage I got multiple game overs, and it's really hard. But the good news is, all of our favorite sub-weapons and power-ups are back from the first game. Just like the first game, you can get some whip upgrades, which they'll make your whip longer and more powerful. Also, all of these sub-weapons from Castlevania 1 do make their return, including the dagger, the axe, the holy water, the cross, and the stopwatch. They all make their return, and they all pretty much function the same exact way they did in the first game. Even the holy water is still broken. Like, it is broken beyond belief, and trust me, you will need it for this game, and I use it a lot in this playthrough. Now, I'm going to do this playthrough a little bit differently because this game, it has a lot of different paths you can take. After certain levels, you have a choice of going to, you get to choose which level you get to go to next. So I kind of do it in like a chronological order. Like first I do stage 1, and then I do each stage 2, and then each stage 3. Because, you know, each stage has like multiple levels. So I go from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, and you couldn't actually go the path I'm doing on your first playthrough, so I keep that in mind. I had to do, okay, there's a bare minimum of 3 playthroughs you need to do if you want to play all of the levels, but for this playthrough, I played through the game 6 times. And that's because this game is so hard that you die so much. So by playing it through 6 times, I was guaranteed to get some runs of the levels where I don't die, and that was pretty much my whole rationale for doing 6 playthroughs. 6 playthroughs. And that's not even counting the test runs I did, because I did 2 of those, and this game is really hard, so I had to do a lot of preparation, and this game is not recommended for the casual player, and if you've never played a Castlevania game before, do not start out with this game, because this is arguably the hardest game in the series. Anyways, here's our first boss. It is a skeleton warrior. If you have the holy water, just throw it on that, it will die very quickly. If not, just use the whip. It's a pretty weak boss. It's the first boss in the game, so you really shouldn't have any trouble with it. Just use your sub-weapon effectively, use your whip, and you should be okay as long as you have enough health. But really, the holy water destroys it, like every single boss in the game. And you'll be seeing me abuse the holy water for pretty much every single boss in the game. Like, every single boss. It's that broken. The holy water, it's still broken. Unfortunately, in future games, they make the holy water terrible. So we're gonna have to use another sub-weapon instead, but I don't know, why would they change that? The holy water, it's just, it needs to be broken. It's just, I love it when the holy water is so powerful. It just feels so great when you can just throw it on a boss and it just cannot do anything to defend against it. I just love that feeling. It's so great. And you really need that overpowered sub-weapon to get through this game. I mean, like I said, this game is very hard. And right now, it doesn't look that hard. You may be thinking, oh, it doesn't look that bad. No. The later levels, you'll see why people say this game is so hard. Some of the later levels, it's just, it was like it was designed to make you die. And it's hard. It's really hard. And there's a reason why I did 6 playthroughs. I wanted to get runs where I didn't die in the levels. Now, I'm pretty sure I still have a few levels where I die, but, you know, this game's hard. What can I say? Anyways, here's our second level. If you saw after the first level, we had a choice of what level we want to go to next. We could go to this tower right here, or we could go to the swamps. I chose to go to the tower here, but I think in the next level I kind of time travel backwards and go to the swamp, so that's basically how the whole playthrough is going to work. I'm going to go to a level and time travel backwards and then go to the other level, just so you can see every single level in the game, because well, that's the purpose of a playthrough, to show you everything the game has to offer. Now this tower level, this one isn't too bad, but this type of level design is what makes some of the later levels extremely difficult. This level is very vertical, and if you fall if you fall off the bottom of the screen, you will die. And so in the later levels, a lot of enemies will be flying around and they will knock you back into pits or at the bottom of the screen, and then you'll die. And just some of the later levels are so frustrating. And it's all because of the same knockback feature that was in Castlevania 1. Whenever you get hit, you just get sent flying backwards, and to me, it feels like you just gravitate towards the nearest bottomless pit, but maybe that's just a placebo effect or something like that. And, luckily, they get rid of this feature later. Well, they don't actually get rid of it, but they make it less of a problem, let's say. They make it so it's not as bad, and it's really not an issue, but in the NES games, it's a huge problem. And look at that, the Medusa heads are back. Great, my favorite enemy ever. And they're just as annoying as they were in Castlevania 1. And these things get even worse in some of the later games. Just, why did the game creators love the Medusa heads so much? They just love to use these enemies. They're the most annoying enemy in the Castlevania series. They just, even though they fly in a very predictable pattern, I always seem to get hit by them. Always. And I don't know why. it's not like they fly around so rapidly and erratically. They really don't. It's just, I just always seem to get hit by them. I don't know. Anyways, here's our boss. I throw some holy water and then he dies. Yeah, that was really exciting, wasn't it? But anyways, after defeating this boss, we are introduced to the new gimmick in Castlevania 3. There are more playable characters. Yes, there are a total of 4 playable characters in this game. However, you can only have 2 of them in your party at one time. So here we are going to meet our first party member. His name is Grant. Grant Danasty, I believe his full name is. And every single character has a different set of attacks and different properties that makes them different than Trevor. Oh, I forgot to mention, we're not playing as Simon Belmont anymore. We're now playing as Trevor Belmont, so just keep that in mind. They control the same, so there's really no difference, but just keep that in mind, you know, story-wise. Anyways, Grant plays a little bit differently than, actually very differently than Trevor. Grant can walk on walls and the ceiling, and this helps sometimes, I guess. It helps with some of the levels, but most of the time it really doesn't matter that much. But he can walk on walls and things like that. As far as attacking goes, he has a small knife that really isn't that effective. And Grant can get 2 sub-weapons. He can get the knife and the axe, I believe. Overall, I don't exactly like playing as Grant. I just find his attacks to be really useless. I just think he's really not that good. He's great for some, like, some of the stages where you just need to climb on a wall and it helps you get past a certain obstacle. But other than that, I don't find Grant very useful, and he's not my preferred party member. I generally do not take Grant along with me, just because his attacks are so pathetic. I mean, the knife is pretty weak, and it has a very short range, and you want to stay far away from enemies, so you don't have to get hit, and I just think that Trevor is a far superior character. But Grant, he's fun to play as. I've never actually beaten the game with him, but, you know, I play with him on occasion. He's an alright character. He's not horrible. Oh, and this level is pretty unique in the way that when you finish it, you have to climb back down the tower, which I think is a little unnecessary, but, you know, it's not too bad. You just climb back down the same way. Here is one of the levels that Grant really comes in handy. This level you can kind of climb around, and earlier you saw that I climbed on a ceiling and got a 1-up that way, and yeah, he's useful, but I don't know, try out Grant, you may like him. Me, personally, I'm not a fan of him. He's just an okay character. He's very situational, in my opinion. Anyways, I will see you in part number 2.